How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another moto vlog, back by popular demand. A lot of you guys have been asking for this, and I provide. Okay, this Lexus needs to move. I wanted to talk to you today about why I'm never going back to Canada, or at least not going back for a long time. And I get this question a lot, which is why I wanted to make this video, especially from Taiwanese people who ask me why I'm not going back to Canada, because, they have a really good reason for asking this question, and I think, some pretty good reasons for why I don't go back. They ask this question because to the outside world, outside of Canada, Canada is seen as a very desirable country to live in, a very nice place to be, and that's true. It is nice, but it does have its issues. A lot of people assume that Canada has very high standards of living. It's very beautiful. There are a lot of jobs and opportunities to make money, and there's like a good work-life balance type of thing. And while all of these things can be true, there are differences between how Canada is perceived and the realities of actually living there, particularly over the last couple of years. That's what I wanted to talk about today, is the realities and perceptions of living there, and why I don't want to anymore, and why I choose to live here in Taiwan, where I really like it. And it's not just me. You can see lots of YouTube videos of people complaining about Canada, or people who have immigrated to Canada and are now leaving and going back to the countries that they're from because they were better off there than they are in Canada, which is really shocking to a place like Canada, where we've traditionally had high levels of immigration, and it's now being kind of turned on its head, and people are leaving Canada in droves. And so why is that? Why are people leaving Canada, and why don't I go back to live there? Well, the first reason is that it is expensive. Let me just get around all this traffic. I'm in Donghai night market in the daytime, and you can see how busy it is still. It's around dinner time, so a lot of these students from the university have come to get something to eat. So it's expensive. And why is it so expensive? Well, the first thing is housing. The cost of owning a house in Canada has skyrocketed. And there's a reason for that. A lot of people blame our current Prime Minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau, who has been in power in Canada for the last 10 years, almost a decade, really. Not quite 10 years, but it's getting there. A lot of people don't like him because they blame him for these crazy costs of living. He's been in power for so long, and a lot of voters in Canada just get tired of having the same party in power over the last couple of years. And so a lot of people want him gone. They want him out of office. By the way, I don't think it's completely his fault. These things are complicated and complex, and it's never just one person's fault, but he probably did have a lot to do with the rising cost of living. So what exactly did he do? Well, the first thing is immigration. Now, I am by no means anti-immigration. I myself am an immigrant. I live here in Taiwan, outside of my home country of Canada. However, his immigration policies have been very extreme, we'll say. I think last year Canada let in 1 million immigrants or something, which is like insane. And that's not, the issue. The main issue is that we don't have anywhere for these people to live. We don't have enough housing for the amount of people that Canada is letting in. It's very, very, very expensive to build houses in Canada, to get the permits to build houses, at least around the major cities where people want to live. Before you even start building the house, just to get the permit is really, really expensive. Wow. But that's created a housing shortage, which increases demand, and that drives up the price. And so Canada has now some of the most unaffordable housing in the entire world. There are YouTube videos or places you can go where you can see the actual numbers, where they do more of a deep dive, and you can see how long it takes the average Canadian earner to pay off their mortgage, and it's something like 50 billion years or whatever. And so a lot of Canadians in my generation and younger aren't ever really going to own a home, unless you have a very good job, or you're able to make a lot of money and you're fortunate enough. But for most working class people, it's just too expensive to own a home, and you might think, well, why not just rent? Well, that's expensive too, because again, the issue is shortage. The issue is there aren't enough houses, and so that drives up rent prices too. And so it's a big problem, and it makes Canada very, very expensive. There are also, carbon taxes that Trudeau has introduced, which makes owning a car very expensive, and that's something you pretty much have to have in Canada. If you want to live there comfortably, you pretty much have to own a car, and that's very expensive with this new carbon tax. And all our other taxes are very, very high too. You know, we have universal health care in Canada, which is lovely. That's a great thing. But it's not free. We pay for it with our taxes. Childcare is often subsidized by the government. You know, we pay with that taxes for that. And so our taxes are very, very high. People pay a lot of money in taxes in Canada, and that just makes it really expensive. And for me in particular, I can't afford to live there. You know, if I went back to Canada and went back into my profession, if I went back to the career I had in Canada, which was childcare, and this is my fault, this isn't Canada's fault, I just chose a profession that doesn't pay very much money. My salary would be way too low for me to live there. I'm sure the salaries for childcare providers have gone up, but it's different to Taiwan. You aren't going to make any money if you own a childcare business or if you work in childcare, because if you're an investor and you're looking to spend money, invest in a company and hope to get a return on your investment, you're not going to invest in a daycare because they don't produce anything other than hopefully not serial killers, you know, 20 years later, however long it takes to raise a kid. Here in Taiwan, it's a different story. Kindergartens here can make a lot of money. Taiwan is a small country where there are a lot of very wealthy people living close together, and so people can charge a lot of money for tuition to go to kindergartens, and they're able to make a ton of money, which is great. It's different in Canada. We aren't able to do that, and so I wouldn't be able to make enough money to live there. The other thing that makes it expensive is just geography. Where I'm from in Ottawa, you have to pay a lot of money to heat and cool your house. We have central heating and cooling where I'm from, and it's a lot of money to run your air conditioning and your heating unit. That leads me on to my next point, which is the weather. Now, I know weather is a boring topic. No one wants to hear people complain about the weather, and it's one of those stereotypes or one of those cliches about anywhere in the world where people complain about the weather in their hometown or wherever they're from. They say, oh, you know, in my insert city here, we have the worst weather. That's true for anywhere, but where I'm from in Ottawa, it is particularly bad. The winters, obviously, as you probably could figure out, it's Canada, are very, very cold. You know, a lot of people tell me here in Taiwan, oh, I've never, you know, had the chance to see snow. I really want to see snow. It seems so romantic. It seems so cool. I want to play in it. I just want to touch it, see what it feels like. I think they have this image in their head where it's going to be like, you know, you're going to be in like your house at nighttime. You get the fireplace going. The snow is falling all thick and lovely and nice. And you got a cup of hot chocolate and you're cozy. And those times do happen in Canada. However, the reality of the situation is that snow sucks when you live in it. It sucks ass. I think you don't see the parts of snow where you wake up at 6 a.m. because it snowed all night before and your house and your car are covered in like 3 feet of snow and you got to shovel it, and it's very humid in Ottawa, and so the snow is wet and it's heavy and it's the slushy, the crappy. I don't know how to really put it into words right now, but if you're Canadian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Snow sucks to Canadians. It's very rare that we can take the opportunity to appreciate the snow. It's a big inconvenience for us. And the summers too, this is what really surprises people. Like, no one, doesn't surprise anyone that Canada is cold and it's snowy. Of course it is. What surprises a lot of people is that in Ottawa, in particular Ottawa, the summers are shockingly similar to Taiwanese summers. It's very hot and very humid in the summers in Ottawa, and so you have to have AC. I went to the UK over Christmas to spend time with Alan's family, had a lovely time, but I was so surprised that they didn't have AC inside their houses. I was like, how do you not cook in the summer times? In Canada, you have to have AC. It is so hot in Ottawa. It's ridiculous. I say Ottawa in particular because, you know, if you drive 4 or 5 hours to Toronto or where my grandparents live in Kitchener, the summers there are a lot better. It's not nearly as humid. And convenience is another huge reason why I don't want to go back there. In a country like Canada that's so big and is so built around owning a car, you have to have one. It's very, very difficult to live in Canada without a car. Our public transportation system in most cities really doesn't cut it. And cars, especially with that carbon tax, are very expensive. And I love driving cars. So for me, it's not a huge issue. I love cars. I've always loved cars. I love driving. It's one of my favorite things to do. But when you're forced to own a car, you know, it changes that a lot. If you want to go anywhere, it takes a long time to get there. Things just happen really slow in Canada. A lot of people there live a lot slower pace of life than here in Taiwan. and it's simply the case that I'm not used to it anymore. I went back to visit in the summertime, and I was so sick of it after a week. I couldn't believe how slow everything happened. I couldn't believe the inconvenience and just how much people lollygag. And I really, really, really like the quicker pace of life and how convenient and easy things are to do here. And I really like that about Taiwan and dislike that about Canada. People often say that Canada is a very beautiful country. People say that about Canada all the time to me. They say, oh, you know, Canada is such a beautiful country. Canada 很漂亮, eh? And for the most part, they're right. That's true. It can be very beautiful. You know, I think a lot of Taiwanese people like to go to Vancouver, which is a very, very beautiful city. British Columbia is a very beautiful place to be. However, that's just one part of Canada. There are a lot of parts of Canada that are not very beautiful. The whole part about having to own a car means that cities are often built, like newer cities are often built, around the idea of owning a car. And these new areas, these new residential areas that are being built around cars just look really ugly to me. You know, a lot of these strip mall kind of areas where there's no thought or process into making it aesthetically nice or beautiful. New residential areas in Canada are so ugly. Not that, you know, Taiwanese neighborhoods are very good looking, they're also very ugly. But I really, really don't like that part of Canada. A lot of people, you know, when they think of Canada being beautiful, they think of, like, you know, the East Coast, the Maritimes, which are very beautiful. They think of Lake Louise or Banff National Park or Montreal's old city. Those places are, yes, indeed, very, very beautiful places, don't get me wrong. But that's not all of Canada. Most of Canada these days are these residential suburban areas, which just look terrible. The perception versus the reality of Canada are two very different things. I think it's important to point that out to people before they move to, whoa, champ, cutting into my lane there. I think it's important to highlight those things because I think a lot of people have a very romantic view of Canada that's not necessarily, it doesn't match the realities of living there. And the other reason I don't want to go back is, to be honest, food in Canada sucks. It's not good. Yes, our like national dish, basically poutine, is amazing. It's French fries, cheese, and gravy. Love that. But for the most part, food in Canada isn't really all that good. A lot of Canadians have to cook every day, which is fine. You can make good food because it's too expensive to go out to restaurants every day. Like we do here in Taiwan. The thing is about Canada is that when you go out to eat, a lot of the restaurants, most of the restaurants are chain restaurants. So for example, when I lived in Canada, when I was going through university to pay for my education, I worked in a kitchen. I was a cook at a restaurant called the Royal Oak. It was like a British pub. They had like 13 locations or something all across Canada. It was a chain. And most restaurants you go to are chains. Think about Saint-Hubert or like Montana's, like all of these, a lot of these are in Ontario specifically. Most of the restaurants are chain restaurants and the food fucking sucks. It's not good. And if you're Canadian and you think the food is good there, then I don't think you've traveled enough to other countries where they take more pride in their food. A lot of Taiwanese people, when they go to Canada, are very disappointed in the food, and I don't blame them. Canada is expensive, but it's expensive because Canada has a very, very high standard of living, and so it's still a lovely place to be. I'm not saying that Canada is now this third world country and it's completely fallen apart and it's shit. It isn't. It's still like a lovely, lovely place to be if you can afford it. You know, maybe if I took the new skills that I've learned over the past couple of years here in Asia, like video editing or marketing or script writing or being on camera, behind the camera, all the things that are involved in making these videos, maybe, you know, I could find a different job, something with social media. I don't know. Maybe I could, but I'm not really sure, and I'm not really planning on going back. It's just not what it once was. It is no longer the land of opportunity that it used to be. I'm getting stuck at this red light because no one will let us in. Come on, Corolla, go. The light is red. It has a lot of issues that needs to be dealt with. It has to get immigration under control. It has to get its housing prices under control, and I don't know that it can. Canada has having an election next year where Trudeau is most likely going to lose. Not a very popular leader at the moment. However, I just don't know that the government that will replace him will be able to change it. If you guys disagree or you think Canada is an amazing place, which you know it is in a lot of ways, let me know in the comments. We can have that discussion, and that way more of us can learn about what it's like in Canada. Maybe you are Taiwanese and you live in Canada, maybe you're Canadian and you grew up there and you're still there, and you've seen how your life has changed over the last couple of years because of the cost of living and all of the other issues that Canada has. Or maybe you're Taiwanese and you're interested in moving to Canada and you want to know more. Just comment all that down below. If you found this interesting, you know, subscribe. I'd love to have you along. A lot of my current subscribers have been asking for these motovlogs to come back, and so I'm trying my best to make more of these. Stay positive, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm gonna go to this restaurant and edit this video. Bye! Oh, and by the way, I got these cool new gloves, these fancy new riding gloves from one of the parents that I used to work with when I was teaching, and they're friggin' amazing, so I just wanted to shout him out. He runs a bar called Placebo here in Taichung. It's a very nice cocktail bar, so go and check it out. And thank you so much for these gloves. I love these. These are really, really nice. I really like these. So huge thanks, man. These are great. And they're a million times better than the cheap, crappy gloves I had before.